Look around you. The people you call friends, colleagues, or even family. How well do you truly know them? Can you trust them, or are they simply masters of disguise, concealing their true nature behind charming words and carefully curated appearances? In a world where deception thrives, actions, not words, are the only reliable measure of character. The ancient Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus all emphasized that a person's true essence is revealed not by what they say, but by how they behave, especially in moments of pressure, adversity, or anonymity. While words can be rehearsed and images can be manipulated, everyday actions remain an unfiltered reflection of one's core values. This article will equip you with 7 behavioral cues that expose a person's true character. Whether they are a trustworthy friend, a reliable partner, or someone best kept at a distance. You don't need years to uncover who someone really is. Just observe these 7 things, and the truth will become clear. 1. How they treat the powerless. If you want to see someone's true character, watch how they treat those who can do nothing for them. The way a person interacts with service workers, janitors, security guards, or anyone in a lower social position speaks louder than any carefully chosen words. A person's kindness, or lack thereof, is most evident when there is no reward, no audience, and no expectation of reciprocity. Imagine sitting in a cafe when a server accidentally spills coffee on the table. One person might smile, say, "It's okay," and even help clean up. Another might lash out, belittle the worker, or demand compensation. The difference is not in the situation, but in the person's internal values. This is why the Stoics taught that character is not tested in moments of ease, but in how one handles the small, unexpected interactions of daily life. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and emperors, once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." True strength is not about exerting power over others, but about mastering oneself. Those who humiliate others, especially the powerless, are revealing insecurity, not superiority. In contrast, those who show respect to everyone, regardless of their status, demonstrate an unshakable moral foundation. Consider this. Have you ever seen someone rudely dismiss a janitor but turn on the charm when speaking to their boss? This is a clear sign of inconsistency and a transactional mindset. They only treat people well when they stand to gain something. But integrity means acting with kindness and fairness at all times, not just when it is convenient. A truly good person does not adjust their behavior based on who is watching or what they can gain. Their respect for others is unwavering. Now, think of a moment when you saw someone extend kindness without expecting anything in return. Perhaps they helped an elderly person cross the street, spoke kindly to a struggling cashier, or treated a waiter with patience, even in a busy restaurant. These small acts, though easy to overlook, are the most genuine indicators of a person's inner world. One of the best ways to judge whether someone is trustworthy is to observe how they handle power in its smallest forms. A company CEO who listens attentively to the cleaning staff likely leads with empathy and fairness. A teacher who treats struggling students with patience rather than frustration values growth over punishment. A person who tips generously, acknowledges others by name, and expresses gratitude regularly is demonstrating their understanding that respect is not earned by status, but by virtue. On the other hand, those who belittle others when they think no one is watching reveal their arrogance and lack of self-awareness. Some exploit their power to make themselves feel bigger by making others feel smaller. They use condescending tones, ignore those they see as unimportant, or show impatience with people who are struggling. These are warning signs. If someone treats a waiter, a driver, or a janitor with disrespect, how do you think they will treat you when you are no longer useful to them? If you ever doubt a person's integrity, here's a simple test. The next time you go out with them, pay attention to how they interact with those who serve them. Do they make eye contact and say thank you, or do they act as if service workers are invisible? Do they hold the door open for someone behind them, or do they only care about their own convenience? These behaviors may seem small, but they are windows into a person's true nature. The lesson is clear. Power does not reveal character, it amplifies it. Someone who treats the powerless with dignity is likely to be fair and compassionate in all areas of life. But someone who abuses minor power is likely to do far worse when given greater authority. If you want to know whether someone is truly good at heart, watch how they treat those who have nothing to offer them. Because in those moments, when there is nothing to gain, the truth is laid bare. 2. How they react to adversity. A person's true character is not revealed in moments of comfort, but in times of hardship. When everything is going well, it's easy to maintain composure, speak kindly, and make rational decisions. But when things fall apart, when failure strikes, plans crumble, and unexpected obstacles arise, this is when you truly see who someone is. Do they remain calm, seek solutions, and grow from the challenge, or do they lash out, blame others, and crumble under pressure? Seneca, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." He believed that adversity is not something to fear, but an opportunity to build resilience. Just as muscles grow stronger through resistance, our minds become sharper and our character deepens through struggle. Those who embrace adversity as a teacher emerge stronger, while those who resist it become bitter. Imagine two people facing the same career failure. One loses an important deal, a project collapses, or they are unexpectedly laid off. The first person reacts with self-reflection, asking, "What can I learn from this? How can I improve?" They take responsibility, adapt, and move forward. The second person, however, immediately looks for someone to blame, their boss, their co-workers, the market. Instead of learning from the setback, they sink into resentment and self-pity. Which person do you think will succeed in the long run? Everyday frustrations, like traffic jams, flight delays, or a spilled cup of coffee, also provide glimpses into a person's character. Have you ever seen someone completely lose their temper over a minor inconvenience? A person who gets irrationally angry over a long line at the grocery store or a slow internet connection is likely someone who struggles with emotional control. On the other hand, those who breathe, accept the situation, and adjust their mindset demonstrate an inner stability that cannot be shaken by trivial annoyances. Consider someone who faces a personal betrayal, a friend who turns against them, or a partner who lets them down. How do they respond? Do they allow the pain to define them, letting anger and resentment consume them, or do they acknowledge their hurt, process it, and eventually move forward with dignity? Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, faced betrayals from those closest to him, but never let these actions dictate his own values. He reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The strongest individuals don't let adversity turn them into victims. They stay composed, analyze their next step, and find a way forward. They understand that challenges are inevitable and that suffering is not caused by events themselves, but by how we interpret them. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. This means that our reaction to adversity is always a choice. Do we let obstacles break us, or do we use them to build greater resilience? Next time you meet someone new, don't just judge them by how they act when life is easy. Watch them when things go wrong. Do they panic, blame, and explode with frustration? Or do they pause, assess the situation, and respond with wisdom? Someone who can remain calm and strategic under pressure is someone who can be trusted. Those who crumble at the first sign of difficulty will likely do the same in relationships, business, and friendships. Life is unpredictable. No one is immune to failure, setbacks, or disappointment. But what separates the strong from the weak is how they handle those moments. A person with true inner strength does not avoid adversity, but embraces it as a chance to grow. If you want to know who someone really is, don't watch them when they win. Watch them when they lose. That is where their true nature is revealed. 3. What they do when no one is watching. Imagine this. A person finds a lost wallet on an empty street. There's no one around, no security cameras, no bystanders, no risk of being judged. What happens next? Do they return it, untouched, seeking no recognition? Or do they pocket the cash and walk away, justifying it as a lucky find? These are the moments when a person's true character is revealed, not in grand speeches or public acts of kindness, but in the quiet, unseen choices they make when no one is watching. The Stoics believed that character is not defined by what we show the world, but by what we do in solitude. C.S. Lewis echoed this timeless wisdom, stating, "Integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching." Yet, in today's world, many people craft public personas that mask their private realities. They perform acts of kindness for applause, but act selfishly in isolation. They claim honesty but cut corners when given the chance. But here's the truth. What you do when no one is watching is who you truly are. Think about someone who always does the right thing only when they have an audience. Maybe they loudly donate to charity but are cruel to their employees. Maybe they preach discipline but indulge in hypocrisy behind closed doors. These individuals are not driven by values, they are driven by perception. They do what is expected when it benefits them, but abandon morality the moment anonymity shields them. Contrast this with someone who embodies true integrity. This person honors their commitments even when it's inconvenient. They don't cut ethical corners, even when doing so would go unnoticed. If they borrow money, they return it without needing to be reminded. If they promise something, they follow through, regardless of whether anyone will check. Their actions are not dictated by fear of judgment, but by an internal moral compass. But integrity is more than just avoiding wrongdoing. It's also about doing good when there's no recognition involved. Picture someone who sees an elderly person struggling with groceries in an empty parking lot. No cameras, no crowd, no Instagram moment to capture, but they help anyway. That is character. It's easy to be generous when people are watching, but true virtue lies in the kindness given without expectation of reward. Now let's consider the test of honesty. What would you do if you were given the chance to cheat without getting caught? If a store clerk mistakenly gives you extra change, do you return it? If you stumble upon sensitive information at work, do you misuse it for personal gain? These are defining moments. Most people like to think of themselves as honest, but opportunity does not create corruption, it only reveals it. The Stoics believed that a person of virtue should remain just as ethical in private as they are in public. A practical way to evaluate integrity is to observe how people treat their personal commitments. Do they respect their own promises to themselves? A person who sets personal goals, whether it's waking up early, exercising, or working on self-improvement, but consistently finds excuses to abandon them, often lacks internal discipline. If they can't honor commitments to themselves, How likely are they to honor commitments to others? Perhaps one of the most revealing tests of character is how someone acts when they think their behavior doesn't matter. Do they treat strangers with kindness, knowing they'll never see them again? Do they respect public spaces, returning their shopping cart instead of leaving it in the middle of the parking lot? These small, everyday decisions expose more about a person's core values than any carefully curated image ever could. The reality is, you cannot separate private behavior from public character. The person who is dishonest in private will eventually be dishonest in business. The one who disregards small responsibilities will fail when entrusted with bigger ones. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." It's a simple yet profound standard. So how can you apply this wisdom to your own life? Start by paying attention. Observe how people act when they think no one is watching. Do they only behave when accountability is enforced? Do they switch personalities based on who is around? Or do they remain consistent, embodying their values no matter the circumstances? But more importantly, turn the lens inward. If a stranger observed your life for a week without your knowledge, what would they learn about you? Would they see a person of integrity, or would they see contradictions between your words and actions? If there's a gap, the solution isn't to hide better, it's to be better. At the end of the day, character is not what you claim, it's what you prove in the quiet moments when no one else is there to witness it. And if you truly want to understand someone, don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do when they think no one is watching. 4. How they talk about others when they are not around. What someone says about others when they are absent is a direct reflection of their own character. Words are not just sounds, they reveal values, mindsets, and insecurities. The way a person speaks about their friends, colleagues, or even strangers when there is no one to correct or challenge them provides one of the clearest insights into their true nature. The Stoics understood the power of speech. They taught that words are not just tools of communication, but mirrors of the soul. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This includes choosing words that reflect wisdom, fairness, and integrity. Seneca went further, warning against indulging in malicious gossip as it corrupts both the speaker and the listener. Yet, despite this wisdom, many people fail this test daily. Consider the person who constantly speaks ill of others. They may disguise their words as concern. "I just think you should know what kind of person he really is." Or they may use humor. "I'm not trying to be mean, but isn't she just the worst?" These are tactics to normalize negativity while avoiding accountability. But the truth remains. If someone is eager to tear others down when they're not around, they will likely do the same to you when you're absent. Now, let's examine the habitual gossipers, the ones who thrive on discussing other people's failures, flaws, and private matters. What motivates this behavior? Often it's insecurity. By highlighting someone else's mistakes, they momentarily feel superior. They use gossip as a crutch to elevate themselves, believing that making others look bad will make them look better. But as Epictetus warned, when you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. The need to criticize others often arises from an unwillingness to examine one's own shortcomings. Then, there are those who exaggerate the flaws of others. These individuals don't just relay information, they twist it, embellish it, and paint others in the worst possible light. Why? Because negativity attracts attention. A neutral statement like, "He made a mistake at work," is far less interesting than, "He completely ruined everything. Our entire project suffered because of him." Some people crave drama, and use exaggeration as a tool to stir conflict, gain sympathy, or manipulate opinions. In contrast, people of strong character handle discussions about others with restraint and respect. They do not engage in gossip, nor do they eagerly listen to it. They understand that speaking ill of others does not elevate them, it diminishes them. If they must discuss someone's absence, they choose fairness. If a person is struggling, they acknowledge their flaws without using them as weapons. If a person has wronged them, they address the situation privately, rather than making it a spectacle for others. A reliable test of character is to observe how someone reacts to gossip. Do they eagerly contribute, adding fuel to the fire? Do they nod and remain silent, passively allowing negativity to spread? Or do they politely steer the conversation elsewhere, refusing to be a part of it? The strongest individuals do not indulge in the weakness of tearing others down. They recognize that a room filled with gossip is often a room filled with insecurity. Another critical aspect of speech is how people talk about those who cannot defend themselves. It's one thing to complain about a frustrating boss or an unfair situation. It's another to belittle people who are vulnerable. If someone is quick to mock a struggling coworker, ridicule an absent friend, or insult someone they perceive as beneath them, they reveal a lack of compassion. And if they justify it with, "It's just a joke," or "They'll never know, remember?" Cruelty disguised as humor is still cruelty. But what about constructive criticism? Is it always wrong to speak about others when they are not present? The difference between criticism and gossip is intent. If the purpose of the conversation is to understand, resolve a conflict, or genuinely help someone grow, it is not malicious. But if the goal is to judge, shame, or entertain, it is nothing more than petty negativity masquerading as conversation. A simple way to measure a person's integrity is to ask, would they say the same words if the person were in the room? If the answer is no, it means they are hiding behind their absence. They do not have the courage to speak honestly, nor the wisdom to remain silent. The lesson is clear. If someone eagerly speaks negatively about others to you, they will eventually do the same about you to someone else. Trust is not built on selective kindness. It is built on consistent integrity. Be mindful of what people say in private, because private words eventually shape public reputations. Finally, take this as an opportunity for self-reflection. How do you speak about others when they are not around? Are your words fair, necessary, and beneficial? Or do they serve no purpose other than to entertain, criticize, or tear down? The Stoics taught that discipline of speech is discipline of mind. If you want to build strong character, start by choosing words that build rather than destroy. And the next time you hear someone engaging in gossip, ask yourself, does this conversation reveal more about the person they're speaking about or about them? Because in the end, it is not words that define others, but the character of the person who speaks them. 5. How they behave when they have power or success. It is easy to be kind, humble, and considerate when you are struggling or when you need help. But what happens when someone no longer needs anything from others? When they rise to a position of power or achieve success, do they remain grounded, or do they allow arrogance and self-interest to take control? Plato once said, "Power doesn't corrupt, it reveals." The way a person behaves when they hold power or status is one of the greatest tests of their true character. The Stoics believed that external circumstances, whether fortune or misfortune, do not change a person. They only bring out what was already inside. A man who was kind in poverty but turns cruel in wealth was never truly kind. His humility was merely a result of necessity, not virtue. Consider the people in your life who have achieved something significant. Did they remain loyal to those who supported them? Did they continue to treat others with respect, or did they begin to look down on those they once stood beside? True character is not measured when someone needs others, but when they no longer need them. One of the clearest signs of integrity is whether a successful person acknowledges the people who helped them along the way. Gratitude is the foundation of strong character. A person who rises to success but forgets those who supported them, mentors, colleagues, friends, is showing not just ingratitude, but also a lack of wisdom. The Stoics often emphasized that no man succeeds alone. Fortune may favor someone today, but it can take everything away tomorrow. Those who fail to recognize this often find themselves isolated when their power fades. But power and success do not just test loyalty, they also test self-control and responsibility. When given authority, does a person use it to uplift others, or do they see it as a tool for manipulation and dominance? Many leaders talk about using their influence for good, but only a few genuinely do. A wise and virtuous leader seeks to empower others, to create opportunities, and to build a strong foundation that benefits everyone. Meanwhile, a weak or selfish person uses power to serve only themselves, expecting obedience, demanding special treatment, and surrounding themselves with people who flatter them rather than challenge them. Look at any great empire, organization, or community, and you will see the pattern of power revealing true character. Some leaders grow into statesmen, using their influence with wisdom and fairness. Others become tyrants, believing that success makes them superior. The latter often forget that true respect is earned, not demanded. The more a person insists on being treated as important, the more fragile their confidence actually is. How does a person treat those they no longer need? This is one of the simplest yet most powerful questions to ask. If someone once relied on a mentor, a friend, or a supporter, but now ignores them, belittles them, or acts as if they never mattered, that is a major red flag. It shows that their kindness was not genuine but transactional. On the other hand, true leaders and people of character never let power cloud their humanity. They remain humble because they understand that power is fleeting and that life has a way of reversing fortunes when arrogance takes over. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful emperors in history, reminded himself daily of his own mortality. Despite ruling an empire, he never let power define his identity. He believed that the true test of a man was not how much control he had, but how he used that control. So how can you evaluate a person based on their success or power? The answer is simple. Watch how they act when they have nothing to lose. Do they still treat people with fairness and dignity? Do they give credit to others, or do they take all the recognition for themselves? Do they remain approachable, or do they create barriers to separate themselves from the people they once walked among? If you ever want to know whether someone is truly good at heart, observe them when they don't need to impress anyone, when they don't have to be kind, when they don't have to listen. That is when their real character is revealed. In the end, power and success are not rewards, they are tests, and the people who pass these tests are not those who demand respect, but those who give it freely, no matter how high they rise. 6. How they handle criticism. Power and success may reveal a person's character, but if you truly want to understand someone's depth of maturity, observe how they respond to criticism. Do they listen and reflect, or do they react defensively? Do they acknowledge their mistakes, or do they shift blame and make excuses? Few things expose a person's true self more clearly than their response to being challenged. Most people enjoy being praised, but criticism tests a person's humility and self-awareness. The Stoics believed that truth is a gift, even when it is uncomfortable to hear. Epictetus once said, If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses, but answer, "He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned only these." This mindset is a hallmark of emotional strength, a willingness to see criticism as a tool for growth rather than an attack on one's identity. But how many people actually embrace this philosophy? The reality is, many react to criticism as if it were a personal attack, rather than an opportunity to improve. If someone points out their mistake, their first instinct is to deny it, justify it, or even attack the person who criticized them. They may say things like, "That's not true. You misunderstood me. You don't know what you're talking about. I only did that because of XYZ. It's not my fault." This defensive response comes from ego and insecurity. When a person cannot accept criticism, it often means they are too attached to their self-image, unwilling to admit that they are anything less than perfect. Ironically, the more someone resists criticism, the more they expose their own fragility. A truly strong person does not fear being wrong, they fear remaining wrong. Consider two types of people in a workplace scenario. The emotionally mature leader. When an employee points out a mistake, they listen carefully, acknowledge it, and ask, "How can I improve?" They see feedback as a chance to sharpen their skills and strengthen their leadership. The insecure boss. When criticized, they immediately become defensive, shift blame onto the employee, or even retaliate. Instead of learning, they let their pride blind them. Over time, this type of person creates a toxic environment where people are afraid to speak the truth. The way someone handles criticism also reflects their sense of responsibility. A mature person owns their mistakes, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. If they realize they hurt someone, they apologize sincerely. If they fail at a task, they admit it and work harder next time. They understand that mistakes are not personal failures, but necessary lessons for growth. On the other hand, a person with a fragile ego will do anything to avoid taking responsibility. They will twist the narrative, shift the blame, or find excuses to justify their actions. They see every mistake as a threat to their image, rather than an opportunity to learn. In extreme cases, they may even resort to attacking the messenger, making the person offering feedback feel guilty or foolish. So how can you recognize who truly values growth and who is ruled by ego? Pay attention to how they react when they hear something they don't like. If a person welcomes feedback, thanks the critic, and takes time to reflect, they are likely someone who values self-improvement over self-image. However, if their first reaction is anger, defensiveness, or excuses, it reveals a fragile, unexamined sense of self. The Stoics taught that true strength is found in those who remain calm in the face of uncomfortable truths. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to accept feedback with grace and reason, not with ego-driven emotion. He understood that only fools reject wisdom, while the wise seek it, no matter how painful it may be. If you want to understand someone's true character, observe how they handle criticism. Do they embrace growth, or do they resist the truth? Their reaction will tell you everything you need to know. 7. How they behave when they receive an unexpected advantage. We've explored how people reveal their true character when they are criticized, but another powerful test of integrity is how they act when they receive an unexpected benefit. This could be anything from finding a lost wallet to benefiting from a mistake in their favor. Do they do the right thing, even when no one is watching, or do they justify taking advantage because no one will ever know? It's easy to appear moral when there's nothing to gain or lose, but true integrity is tested when a person stands at the crossroads between personal gain and ethical responsibility. Consider a simple situation. Someone is at a cafe, and the cashier accidentally gives them extra change. The honest person immediately points out the mistake and returns the money. The opportunistic person pockets the cash and walks away, convincing themselves it's just luck. In the grand scheme of life, this may seem like a small act, but these micro-decisions reveal a person's ethical foundation. A person who justifies small dishonesty will likely justify bigger ones when given the chance. The Stoics believed that virtue is a habit. It's not built in grand moments, but in small daily decisions that shape one's character. Imagine another scenario. A person finds a lost phone on the street. What do? Do they make an effort to return it, or do they justify keeping it by saying, "Well, if I don't take it, someone else will"? The way a person reacts in these situations exposes their moral compass. It's easy to say, "I am an honest person," but actions speak louder than words. A particularly revealing situation occurs when someone unexpectedly benefits from an unfair advantage. Suppose a mistake at work leads to them receiving credit for something they didn't do. Do they correct it, or do they quietly enjoy the recognition? If they can profit from someone else's error without consequence, will they take it? These moments uncover a person's true ethical stance, whether they value fairness over self-interest. Philosopher Epictetus once said, "If virtue promises happiness, prosperity, and peace, then progress in virtue is progress in each of these." In other words, the more we cultivate honesty and integrity, the more we develop true peace of mind. But what about those who prioritize opportunism over fairness? They may believe that winning at any cost brings success, but in reality, a person who lacks integrity eventually loses the trust of those around them. Let's take a closer look at two types of people. The person of integrity. When they receive an unfair advantage, they recognize it and correct it. If they find something valuable that isn't theirs, they return it. They refuse to benefit from dishonesty, even if they could get away with it. They sleep peacefully at night, knowing they've acted in alignment with their values. The opportunist. They justify dishonesty by saying, "It's not my fault," or "finders keepers." They rationalize taking what isn't theirs because no one is watching. They don't think about the long-term consequences of their small, dishonest actions. Over time, they develop a habit of exploiting situations for personal gain. A person's true nature is not tested when others are watching. It is tested in unseen moments of choice. Integrity isn't about how we act when we are held accountable. It's about how we act when accountability is absent. Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations, often reminded himself that character is shaped by discipline and consistency, not occasional acts of goodness. He understood that a leader, or any person, should strive to be just even when it is inconvenient, because who we are in small moments defines who we become in the long run. So, the next time you want to assess someone's trustworthiness, don't listen to what they say. Observe what they do when no one is watching. A person who does the right thing only when it benefits them is not truly honest. But a person who chooses integrity even when no one would ever know, that is someone worth trusting. So now that you know the 7 behaviors that reveal a person's true character, ask yourself, how many times have you misjudged someone because you focused on their words rather than their actions? Have you ever trusted someone only to later realize their behavior told a different story all along? Or perhaps you've seen a person's true colors emerge in unexpected moments. The reality is, we don't need years to understand someone. We just need to pay attention. These 7 behaviors are the key to choosing the right people to trust, to work with, to build relationships with. They protect us from manipulation, betrayal, and wasted time on those who don't deserve our energy. So, Which of these behaviors have you personally observed? Have you ever been shocked by how someone revealed their true nature? Share your experience in the comments, because your story might help someone else avoid a painful mistake. And don't keep this knowledge to yourself. Share this video with friends, family, and anyone who needs to see people for who they really are. The more we understand human nature, the better choices we make. And if you found value in this, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because in the next video, we'll go even deeper into Stoic wisdom and powerful life lessons that can change the way you see the world. Click now, and let's continue this journey together.